Welcome to the Frontlines of Leadership podcast, where my guests tell stories and share principles to inspire the rising generation of leaders. In today's episode, I'm excited to welcome Byrd Baggett. Byrd is a best-selling author and popular motivational speaker. He has been helping organizations develop authentic leaders and passionately engaged teams since 1990. As the founder of TrueGrowth, Byrd has helped more than 16,000 leaders lead with the power of authenticity. His corporate experience includes sales and management careers with 2 Fortune 500 companies. Byrd is the author of 15 best-selling books on the topics of sales, customer service, leadership, and motivation. A former All-American sprinter and 2-time captain at the University of Texas, Byrd is also a certified speaking professional, the highest earned designation presented by the National Speakers Association. He graduated in 1972 from the University of Texas with a bachelor's in marketing. Of most importance, Jeannie is his wife and best friend, and they have been blessed with 3 children, Ashley, Amy, and Austin, and 2 beautiful granddaughters, Kate and Birdie. Byrd's purpose is living a life that inspires hope in others. Byrd, thank you for joining us, and welcome to the Frontlines of Leadership podcast. Hey, Byrd, thank you so much for joining. I'm excited to have you on the podcast today.
Jackson, it's great to be with you. Very much appreciated.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have your wisdom and insights today, and we'll just jump in with the first question. Byrd, in your experience and as an athlete, in business and leadership development, who is one of the greatest leaders that you've had throughout your life, and what leadership attributes did you see in them that made their leadership stick out to you?
Well, Jackson, that's a really good question. It's an opportunity for me to honor 2 men in my life that really have made a lasting impact on my life, both personally and professionally. One was my track coach at the University of Texas, Cleveland Price Jr. I was there. I told you I competed in sports, University of Texas, had a very blessed career in track and field from 1969 to 1972. And when I was at Texas, Jackson, we only had one African-American athlete on my track team. And if people remember the late 60s, early 70s, his name was Carl Johnson. And Coach Price was a man of dignity and, moral courage. So we were headed to a track meet in 1971 in Houston, Texas. And we stopped at a restaurant in a rural community on the way to Houston from Austin. And Coach Price and our other assistant coaches and the team walked in, and I'm a captain. That was my junior year. We walked into this restaurant, and the whole team and the owner of the restaurant came up to Coach Price and said, "All your white athletes can eat here in the dining room," and use the N word for Carl, and can eat in the back with the cooks. Yeah. And of course, I get goosebumps telling this, Jackson. It's like I was still there. And of course, we're all looking at our coach, our leader, and what is he going to do? Mm-hmm. And Coach got beat red, and he got right in that owner of that restaurant's face, said these words: "We came there as a team, and we'll eat as a team, or we'll leave as a team." Mm-hmm. Now, that's moral courage.
Right.
In action. And of course, Carl was able to eat with us, but think how that made Carl feel. And I'm an old white guy. Most successful white people, especially men, we've never been humiliated like that. So we don't know how to feel. But, and I've told you before offline, I said, I try to live my life by the PhD acronym, preserve human dignity. And Coach did it. And so, of course, our respect for him, because if you don't love people, you'll never lead them. So that Cleveland Price Jr., Coach died very young, died when he was 57. But the last words out of his mouth to me when I graduated in 1972, Coach was very tough, too. I mean, he held us accountable. And he came around his desk last time I saw him, when I graduated, and he hugged me. And he parted and a tear rolled down his cheek. He said, "You know how I feel." Mm. That's a wow. So that's, I get emotional talking to you about him. And the other is somebody that never made the headlines, never had any notoriety, never won a track meet, an athletic event, never wrote a book, never stood in front of speaking to 1,000 people. Was my dad. My dad grew up in the Depression, lost the love of his life, my mother, when she was 57, lost a son, my brother, who I never knew when he was 2 months old, survived major open heart surgery. As a matter of fact, he died on the operating table. We prayed him back. But worked 32 years in a chemical plant, blue collar, and only missed 5 days of work in 32 years. Is that a wow?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, wow.
Yeah. My daddy never complained. My daddy never raised his temper. My daddy was so humble. And in preparation for this talk, he just was so humble, and his purpose was simply to provide for his family. That was what he lived for. And 2 years, and my mother died when she was 57, and my daddy never complained, Jackson. And 2 years before my dad died, because I wanted everything that I didn't have when I grew up. I wanted, but when I got what I never had, what I had was never enough. The pursuit of success, and. But anyway, 2 years before Daddy died, I asked him. I could tell you exactly where we were sitting. And I asked Daddy, I said, Daddy, why have you always been happy? And Jackson, I think really the word would mean joy, because happiness means that something's got to happen, right?
Right.
And I asked him that. And of course, I'm looking for a $50 answer. And my dad looked at me. My daddy was always smiling. Always was happy, joyful. But anyway, why have you always been happy, Dad? Son, his answer, son, I just think God put me here to serve other people. Wow.
Yeah.
He had passion for life. He was always smiling. And he had compassion for those. And my wife was funny. When my wife would go with my dad on to go for an errand or whatever, my wife's kind of mission driven, She called him Papa, said, he would go to a burger restaurant, and he'd meet the clerk, and he'd spend 5 minutes with him because he wanted to get to know him. Because he really loved people. And 2 years before he died, he said that. And his humility, his compassion, and at his funeral service, you've heard this said, probably it's kind of fun. You want people to come to your funeral to bid you farewell or just to make sure you're dead, right? My dad, a blue collar man, and when my dad died, Jackson, you know what the Bible says about, getting into heaven, what the rich man was like camel getting through the eye of a needle, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much of that. The humble will be exalted, exalted will be humbled.
Right.
In my dad's memorial service, again, a blue collar man, the memorial service was overflowing from blue collar workers to multimillionaires. They love my daddy. That's a wow.
Yeah.
Again, he never articulated this, didn't have to, because, when we do our True Growth Leader Development experience, we'll talk about later, we help people discover their core purpose, in 1 or 2 sentences. And Daddy's, again, you just heard earlier, I just think God put me here to serve other people. And his mission was to serve his family, his friends. So
Yeah.
my dad, and of course, I'm Byrd Baggett the third, and he's Byrd Baggett Jr., so I'm proud to, it's really interesting growing up. And I'm not going to say I was embarrassed, but, I went to college, and I had to have a scholarship to go to college. I earned it because a lot of my teammates in Texas came from wealthy families. They didn't need their scholarship. I did.
Right.
And I didn't talk a whole lot about my mom and dad because, they weren't wealthy, successful. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, yeah, that makes sense.
In our world, we idolize too much people of wealth, position, power. I have nothing against that. But again, success at the expense of faith and family is really failure. Any young person listening to this, like my friend Jackson, I want to repeat that success at the expense of faith and family is really failure. Because if it wasn't for my wife, Jackson, I would not be here. We've been married 52 years. I
Yeah.
can't talk a whole lot about her because I'll get emotional. If it
Mhm.
wasn't for her faith, I wouldn't be here. So, man, again, don't throw it away
Yeah.
uh, for things of this world.
Yeah. Well, Bert, thank you so much for being willing to share, those stories from, Coach Price and your dad. As you talk about, and you said the two of the greatest leaders being your track coach at University of Texas and your dad, I think back on my own life and some of the greatest leaders I've had, if I were to talk about them, would be some of my coaches and my dad. So I can relate to that, and I appreciate you sharing those stories. There's a couple things that I had questions for you about Coach Price specifically, and then your dad as well. You
Sure.
mentioned that Coach Price was a man of dignity and moral courage, and he also, you could tell he really cared for you guys, but he was also tough on you, and as a coach should be, made you better and held you accountable. How did that balance work well for a leader to show that they care and have compassion for you, but also have the ability to hold you accountable, especially, on a sports team where performance does matter?
Yeah, it's and I know when I hear the word coach and mom and dad, I kind of that's important, isn't it? Coach.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's an interesting balance because I'm kind of an easy mark. We have three children, all adults, and I was really good growing up with unconditional love, but you got to have tough love too.
Mm.
Because and I mentioned people, if your leader in your life, if they're not tough on you, they don't care about you. And if they don't hold you accountable, because Coach Price, it's interesting. I told you that when we embraced and left and never done that. I knew he cared about me.
Hmm.
But he told me that last conversation with him, interesting question you're asking, by the way, Jackson. He paid me the greatest compliment that coaches can ever pay an athlete. I mean, I had a very blessed career. He said, I've never coached an athlete that had a greater work ethic than you.
Mm.
And again, that came from my mom and my dad. Work ethic.
Right.
My daddy always said, son, do more than you're paid for, and you'll never have to worry about a job. Wow. Well, if you beat me at I was a sprinter quarter miler. If you beat me in an event on a Saturday at a track meet, I'll shake your hand because you worked hard, but you better be on that track Monday 30 minutes early because I'm
Mhm.
going to be, and if next Saturday, you're going to be shaking my hand. But,
Yeah.
but he said, I've never coached an athlete that had a greater work ethic than you. And he said this, when, the older I get, the more it means to me. He said there are two pains in our life, and we're going to have to pay one or the other pain when it's all said and done, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret.
Hmm.
So you can care about somebody, but if you don't hold them accountable, and he also said this, Jackson, great question you asked. One of life's heaviest burdens is great potential.
Mm.
And real leaders, they provide the sky for you to soar, but they hold you accountable. And you probably know people in your life as young as you are. I know some of my teammates at Texas, Jackson, if you interviewed them today, they would tell you that they wish they would have. They
Mm.
wish they would have worked harder. Because I had athletes on my team had more God given talent than me, but I outworked them.
Yeah.
So again, to have somebody that pushes you, Apollinaire said these words, come to the edge, he said. They said, we are afraid. Come to the edge, he said. They came. He pushed them and they flew. Isn't that beautiful?
Oh, yeah.
But that's what leaders, again, I said earlier, if somebody complains to me, man, my mom or dad, they're tough on me, not abusive, but or my superior or whatever, I say, good. That means they care about you. When they quit holding you accountable, that's when you need to worry. because they've probably given up on you because you don't care.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love that. And I love that you brought up the two types of pain in life. There's a quote that I heard and I've lived by that goes along with those: pain of discipline and pain of regret. It says, the weight of regret weighs tons, the weight of discipline weighs ounces. They're both going to be painful, but the pain of discipline is much less weight than the pain of regret. So I
Boy,
love that.
you just gave me goosebumps. Yeah, and the one thing I can say, I lost more races at Texas than I won. I was, this, I was on the fastest time in the world, several
Yeah.
wins for All Americans, but I lost more races than I won. But I can honestly say that I gave every workout all I could, 100% in every race. And,
Hmm.
and that's cleansing, isn't it? Because when you look back on your past, hey, now listen, I made a lot of mistakes in life. That's the
Yeah.
reason I think I can coach and mentor people because I made a lot of mistakes. But boy, I love that quote you said. Say that again.
The pain of regret weighs tons, the pain of discipline weighs ounces.
Wow. Wow. Have you heard this one? Not mine, but I love it. Most people don't change until the pain of remaining the same exceeds the pain of
Mhm.
change.
Yeah,
That's powerful, isn't
that's
it?
powerful. That's moving. That'll get you going.
Yeah. But boy, I told you before, you're an old soul, Jackson. The fact that you're doing what you're doing and you're hungry. Again, Ray Kroc, McDonald's fame said you're either green and growing or ripe and rotting. And I
Mhm.
still, every day when I get up, what can I do better today?
Mm.
Of course, yeah. And I've shared with you before, my purpose is to live a life that inspires hope in others. And that's what gets me out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Well, Bert, thank you again for being, sharing these stories so far. I'm learning a lot just myself listening and being able to have this discourse with you. But I kind of want to move into your experience with True Growth. Um, People listening, Byrd, after your career at University of Texas, went through sales, went through speaking, and then eventually started the company True Growth. And True Growth has had the opportunity to teach and lead and help people become over 16,000 people become better leaders. And so I'd love to hear, Byrd, your experience and why, after you've shared, who some of the greatest leaders are in your life, and then down the road in your life, focusing on leadership and making a career out of developing leaders. Kind of why did you choose that path to make better leaders? And then kind of the path to get there and starting True Growth.
Another great question. I got to pay tribute to another person in my life that's been, I call him my brother from another mother. Uh, I don't believe in coincidence. I told you before. I just believe coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. The
Hmm.
fact that you and I are talking,
Yeah,
think about
crazy.
that. You were a puppy when I met your dad, and here we are, right? By
Hmm.
the way, Jackson's dad is somebody I highly respect. His dad's a very serving our country as a general officer. And
Hmm.
I met your mama too, and tell your daddy that he outkicked his coverage. He married way over his head, like I did. But reason I bring up your dad, and I love the military and the discipline of the military. What a great model of leadership. Uh, but in 2007, I started being a professional speaker full time in 1992, and written several books and spoke and and I enjoyed it, Jackson. But it was a point in my life, 2007, that you sit in front of a group of people, you pontificate, you share your story, and hopefully you help people, but then they leave,
Hmm.
and you don't go deep with them. Even though some of the people I met through the years to this day were still very good friends. So in 2007, when my wife and I moved back to Texas, north of San Antonio, Texas, on a lake, my wife was in a Bible study group, and she came home one night, handed me a business card, and said, "You need to meet this man." And the man was Lawson Magruder, Lawson W. Magruder III. He's a retired lieutenant general. Uh, and so anyway, I called Lawson up the next day, and So we met for breakfast that week at Ed's Old Windmill Restaurant. I'll never forget it. It's a Greasy Spoon Cafe, Jackson. You walk in, they ask you if you have any Tums, and if you say no, they give you some. But Lawson very stoic. You know me, I'm the marketing guy, the expressive. So we sat down for breakfast, and 4 hours later, we got up. 4 hours.
Wow.
We both had a vision. Lawson had retired, and he was working in the security, national security with a contractor, but he wasn't enjoying it. It was an academia, and he wanted to develop a leader development experience that truly transformed lives. And so I did too. And because I want to go deeper with people, right?
Right.
So that was the birth of True Growth Leadership, True Growth Leadership. And yeah, that was 2007. And I told you we just sold the intellectual property. And that website's still there. It's a great website, truegrowthleadership.com. And we have served over 16,000 leaders since 2007. So we have a lot of data of what does leadership, authentic leadership look like. And I think it's important for people to realize we had an offsite and we came up with, what's our mission statement? What are we all about? What differentiates us? Now, this is 2007, right? So think about how it fits today's society. Our mission statement: help leaders embrace the transformational power of authenticity to improve themselves and the lives they touch. You notice purposely to improve themselves first, because if you don't work on self-awareness yourself, you're not going to be an effective leader.
Right.
And I'm not going to get into the political thing going on, but you just look at the lack of authenticity in our country.
Yeah.
Authenticity is important.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I love the story of True Growth and you and Lawson and that story of, because ultimately that's what I'm most interested is becoming a great leader myself and then also having that opportunity to develop leaders. And so that's why I'm so passionate about it and run this podcast too, to learn from great leaders. And what I love about your mission statement at True Growth was to bring out the authenticity in people. I've been reading a book by Stephen Covey, Trust and Inspire, it's called. And one of the biggest themes of that book is that leaders already have it inside of them, or people already have all the potential and everything inside of them. A leader's job is to bring it out. And so when you bring out that authenticity in people, I feel like it brings out their true self and the power and potential that they already have. But a leader has to nurture, like a gardener, nurture that seed and put them in an environment and nurture an environment that allows them to grow. And so I love the idea that you guys focus on authenticity.
I've got to get that book. It's interesting, planting that seed, that's potential, right? Well, this is interesting. You know, a Roman poet, Juvenal, said these words: never does nature say one thing and wisdom another. That's seed. And I don't know if you and I talked about this, but you talk about nature and the seed. The whole True Growth model was inspired when I was sitting under a 300-year-old oak tree on the Guadalupe River in Texas. Did you know that?
No, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's where True Growth in Mystic Oak, literally, you see behind me that tree, that's Mystic Oak. That's drawing work. And sitting under Mystic Oak, the season of growth, there's 4 seasons of growth that came to me. And again, it's from above, the man above, God. And here they are. You talk about nature, and we're all in one of these seasons in our life. And by the way, you move back and forth. And we have an assessment on this. The season of self, season of drought, season of new growth, season of significance. Now, in my when I was your age, into my late 30s, I was in season of self. It was all about me, 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 me. And you get stuck in season of self, that's not good. And then the season of drought, that's when you realize my way's not working. I got to let go to grow, right?
Right.
That's when you got to admit, be humble yourself and reach out, and people bring people into your life that have more wisdom than you.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next season is a season of new growth. That's when you start growing the new leaves. That's when you've discovered your core values, the roots that determine the fruit of your life.
Mm.
And then the last season of significance, where I am, Mystic Oak, the big old oak tree sitting on the Guadalupe River that has withstood the storms of life, right?
Mm.
She's green and growing, got the deep roots. She has two purposes: to grow and to give back. So when
Yeah.
you mention nature, and by the way, those 4 seasons, we do an assessment. People answer questions and they let us know what season we capture that. Of the 16,000 leaders that we work with, Jackson, where do the majority of them find themselves? And these are successful leaders, okay? Where do
Yeah.
the majority, tell me where you think they find themselves?
I would imagine early on in the season of self, and then maybe after some work at True Growth, season of drought.
You got it. And very few of them find themselves a season of significance. Uh, oh, yeah. And because, vulnerability, authenticity, being honest with yourself. Because I was coaching, we did work with the Army for years, 9 years, pre-command course, command sergeants, majors, lieutenant colonels, majors, going into command, pre-command, brigade and battalion. You're dead, right?
Yep.
You're dead. Your dad went through the True Growth experience. And
That's
by the
right.
way, he honors me. He said it really helped him a lot. So,
Mm-hmm.
wow. But, they go through that. Where was I going? I got sidetracked.
You were talking about the season of self and drought and how most people don't make the jump to new growth.
Yeah. And right. But you got to humble yourself. You got to be vulnerable and open and sharing. In the True Growth experience, a lot of people, the vulnerability is a key. Oh, I know where I was going. Thanks, my old mind came back. During our work with the Army, we had 32 executive coaches on our team, handpicked, and 8 facilitation teams.
Mm.
So we had our own 360 assessment, the 25 behaviors of an authentic leader, and we had one-on-one coaching sessions, with these leaders. So I
Yeah.
was sitting down I was coaching a colonel, and when you're coaching somebody, you ask them questions and help. They give you the feedback. But he asked me a question that nobody had asked me before. Byrd, when did you finally get it?
Mm.
I said, well, I'll be getting it till the day I die. But Jackson, it was a powerful question, i.e. authenticity. What was this all about? It was in my late 30s, early 40s. And I told him I finally got it when I realized it wasn't about me.
Mm.
Because, it was ever, you know, get this, earn this, get this title. When I realized it wasn't about me. And that's when most people change. And again, back to my daddy. Why have you been so happy? I just think God put me to serve other people. I get no greater joy than I getting an email or a phone call or a handwritten note from somebody that I served 20 years ago at a True Growth event.
Yeah.
Byrd, thanks for helping me. Thanks for helping. True Growth saved my marriage,
Mm.
saved my relationship with my children. Put a price tag to that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. And again, the power of authenticity. I have a follow-up question for you, if that's all right.
Sure.
When you guys met and you had that offsite to decide what the mission was, and it was focused on bringing out that true authenticity in leaders, what is it about authenticity? What is the power behind authenticity? When someone becomes an authentic leader, what is the power that comes beyond that once you get it?
Man, that is a great question. You know, I just answer that. A quote from Dr. Norman Vincent Peale comes to me. The softest pillow is a clear conscience.
Mm.
When you live a life of authenticity, you're not trying to please other people or compare yourself to other people or faking it. You're one person here, one person there, and
Yeah.
that takes a lot of emotional and spiritual energy, right? But just to be at peace with who you are, that's a good question. And the way you get there is because during the true growth experience, we help people discover their 5 core values. Now, these are successful people, but they can't tell you what their 5 core values are, the roots that determine the fruit of their lives. And by the way, those don't change. They may tweak them, but your roots are your roots.
Mm.
And then the other question or thing we help people discover is their core purpose.
Mm.
And no people have ever thought about that. That has nothing to do with your title, the money you make, the car you drive, etc. Right?
Right.
You remember my purpose: live a life that inspires hope in others. And I've got my true growth model right here that I printed. And here are my 5 core values. This was 2007 when I went through our experience.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, all of our team had to go through our experience because if they weren't passionate about it, we love them, but they really didn't need to be on the team.
Right.
Integrity, hard work, respect, service, and enthusiasm.
Mm.
Integrity, hard work, respect, service, and enthusiasm. And that's my scorecard, Jackson. Did I do that? But that's a good question. You ask a lot of people, you hear the buzzword authenticity, and what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll reverse ask you the question. When you hear authenticity, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I've struggled with it myself and still not perfect at it, and want to be better and be more authentic. And it's something you mentioned, always trying to please someone else or look this way in this group versus look this way in another group. And that just leads to burnout. You don't know who you are at that point. But
Amen.
but for me, authenticity is doing, I think, that practice that you talked about. Maybe it's understanding truly who you are and why you're here, and then not being willing to deviate from that despite the circumstances. And
Wow.
once you understand your mission, like the practice that you guys go through at True Growth with leaders, your five core traits, and then your main core life purpose. Once you understand that, finding that, but most people don't ever think about that in their life, like you said. But once you find that, not being willing to deviate or give it up for something that maybe you want in the moment. I told you this quote in our other call when we first met. And I try to live by is never give up what you want most for what you want in the moment. And so
Wow.
when you have that,
You got to email me that. I love it.
I will. And so that for me, I think that's what authenticity is being your true self all the time, every time, despite the circumstances or who you're around. And that's not like we're not going to be perfect at that, but great leaders are more often than not, they cross that path as many times as they can on the way.
Jackson, I told you you're an old soul. It's interesting. We help leaders discover their 5 core values. And then we do an exercise. If they're working for an organization like the Army, I love the Army core values: LDRSHIP, loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage, right?
Yeah.
LDRSHIP. I love that. So we'll have, for example, the leaders, the top piece of paper, write down the 7 core values of the Army, right?
Mm-hmm.
Loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage, right? Then in the bottom, they write their 5 core values.
Right.
See where I'm going with this?
Mm-hmm.
And then draw a line from their 5 core values where they intersect with one of the 7 Army core values or more. And by the way, if they aren't in alignment, you probably should not be there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But it's back to what you said, to have the moral courage to say, hey, I'm not going to sacrifice my core values for a company that doesn't align.
Yeah. And I think that'll touch a lot of people, hopefully people listening, and even me. I think about what do I want to do in this life? What do I want to accomplish? And if you don't understand what your core traits are, find them. I want to do this practice. I feel like I know a little bit, mostly what my core traits are, but I want to go through this practice myself and find that out for sure. But if you do that, first of all, find them out, and secondly, then do an inventory of your life. If you have these 5 core traits you understand now and your core mission, do an inventory of your life, and are the things that you're doing, whether that's your job, the way you're treating your family, the way you have relationships with your friends, or whatever, your fitness, whatever it is.
Uh-huh.
If that inventory then doesn't align with those core traits, it's probably time to make some change, and then you can build out a process to be able to do that. And so I think that's important. And I think a lot of people, all of us can do that every day to say, is what I'm going to do today, or the actions I'm going to take today, are they going to be in line with those core traits? So I think that's an amazing practice.
Well, I will tell you what you just said will lead to such peace in a person's life. And let me lay that over the 5 greatest influences on our life that our core values should guide.
Hmm.
Here they are. You just what we watch. I don't need to tell you what's on media.
Yeah,
If it doesn't align with our core values, don't watch it.
right.
Right? What we listen to. If
Hmm.
it doesn't align with our core values, don't listen to it. What we read. And by the way, here's an interesting thing. Most people don't read today.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
And that's a tragedy. You mentioned that book by is that Stephen Covey Jr., The Son?
yeah, yeah, the sun.
And by the way, what a legend that uh 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, still one of the best books ever written on leadership by Stephen Covey. The
Hmm.
Speed of Trust. And what's the other book you said?
Trust and inspire. It
I'm
compares
gonna
the command and control leadership model versus trust and
yeah.
inspire. Hmm.
So what we watch, what we listen to, what we read, what we think about.
Hmm.
And when I thought, sometimes I overthink things, but let my core values guide my thoughts. And the fifth one is the big one, who we associate with.
Hmm.
And show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
Yeah.
And I can take that even deeper, Jackson. When I coach people or talk to them, there's a young man that I have a 1 hour phone call every month, young CEO of a family owned business. But I told him, I said, take that deeper. The 5 people that you spend the majority of your time with, that's a reflection of your future. And you like Mystic Oak, like the big old oak tree, you know, sometimes we got to prune our life, right? We have to prune those branches, those relationships, and it's hard.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and just the peace that that'll give you in an efficient life. Um, and you mentioned something about energy. We do. There's only one book we recommend. People don't have to, but if people listen to this, going to buy one book from what I'm saying, here's a book. You can buy mine, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. The Power of Full Engagement. The Power of Full Engagement. The subtitle is Managing Energy, Not Time, is the key to high performance and personal renewal.
Hmm.
And the book is written by Jim Lohr, Loehr, and Tony Schwartz, Schwartz. They're sports psychologists.
Okay.
They work with world champion tennis players and golfers, Jackson, but they don't focus on how they hit the respective ball, i.e., the job, technical.
Yeah.
They focus on how you manage 4 energy sources: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual.
Hmm.
The most important energy source is physical. The most transformational is spiritual, which they define as your purpose, your values, and your belief. You see the alignment with our model?
Right.
And we do an energy assessment during true growth of those 4 energy sources. We like gas tanks, right? Each one of them. And people circle where they feel they are.
Hmm.
And then we break people out groups of 4 to 5 people. And then we'll ask them, hey, share an energy tank that's half or less full and share the why.
Yeah.
And then we give them disciplines that they can use to take the lowest energy tank, move it to the right.
Yeah.
But that's profound, because you said something earlier, you're running on fumes, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, something similar. Yeah. No, I love that. Focusing on, that's cool. I mean,
well,
it's no
what you
question.
said, Jackson, what you said was, if you're trying to please comparing yourself,
yeah,
wear you out, right?
And it's no coincidence that, some of the greatest leadership, true growth, and then some of the greatest minds in sports, have similar models, and they ultimately align a lot, because those are the most transformational, like you said, when you understand truly your spiritual, physical, emotional, intellectual, social, whatever it is, and then understand your 5 core traits. Yeah, there's no coincidence that that's what really moves the needle in people's lives. Yeah.
But isn't it interesting? I think you and I talked about this before. We don't teach this in college.
Mm-hmm.
We teach, business ethics. I mean, business law. Some people take business law just so they know how they can't get caught.
Right.
Ethics. But, and I told you before, I'm sure your life's the same. I learned more on that track at the University of Texas than I did in any classroom, because it all goes back to one word. We talked about this: relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Healthy relationships. How do you develop them, and how do you keep them?
Yeah. No doubt. That's the biggest driver for me, is what got me into wanting to understand and be and develop leaders, is relationships. I didn't know what I want to do in life. I didn't know what company I wanted to work for. It all came down to the relationships I had and the relationships I wanted to grow. It didn't matter. The technical didn't matter to me. It was having the opportunity to build relationships and understand people and understand myself better. That was the sole driver for me. And now it's bringing a lot more to fruition than I could have imagined. But essentially, relationships, it was the beginning of that. So I couldn't agree more. It's so important for leaders to have good relationships.
And nourish those. I call it PNP of relationship. Plant the seeds of relationship, nourish them with random acts of appreciation, and then pick the results of the relationship, because it takes time to build them, right?
Right.
And boy, if it's not built on a foundation of trust once lost is almost impossible to regain. The thing that I am most proud of, I've burned one bridge in my life. I'm over it. But again, if you burn the bridges of the past, you better be able to walk on water. And the only person I know who could ever walk on water never burned a bridge. But boy, you're so right. Those relationships, that's how you build your business. But what I'm most proud of all the people I've worked with, thousands, I call them friends. Acquaintances. I mean, not deep friends, but I can call, and because I can say this, I always met their expectations. The goal was to exceed them when I was speaking, but they can always trust me.
Yeah.
And that leads to a question you asked. You have it down here. What are the keys to relationships, i.e. teamwork?
Yeah.
By the way, I have a good friend. She's a head women's basketball coach, University of Miami, Trisha Cullum. She's amazing. I met her when she was coaching at Dayton University. But she just, but here's how you build winning teams, because that's all it is relationships, right? And I don't care whether the Army, you're in whatever field, and here they are. Trust. And that's the most important. If you don't have that, you have nothing.
Right.
Open and honest communication. And that's called dialogue. People with big egos, they just want to talk, 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 talk. The best leaders ask the right questions and hush. My
Right.
mother used to get after me because I like to talk. Bubba, did you know that silent and listen have the same letters? And she also said, son, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in proportion. I love it.
Yeah.
Trust, open, honest communication. By the way, the level of trust is direct reflection of the level of open, honest communication. Makes sense?
Yep.
And by the way, when you sit down with somebody and you ask the questions and they get their feedback, how does that make them feel? Appreciated, right?
Yeah. Support.
Value. Trust, open, honest communication, and respect. Treat everybody, again, PhD, preserve human dignity. I'm a nice person, but if you're going to demean, disparage, or humiliate anybody, you are not a leader in my vision.
Right.
Trust, open, honest communication, respect, and accountability. Back to what you said earlier. If you don't hold people accountable to excellence, and by the way, you can't have double standards.
Right.
If you have policies or rules, you need to hold everybody accountable to the same standards, from the most senior to the most junior.
Yeah.
Because when you don't, you lose respect, don't you?
Yeah.
And boy, my coach at Texas, he didn't care whether you were a green freshman like me or a seasoned senior. If you didn't earn the right to carry that baton on the relay, guess what? He pulled you off of it.
Yeah. You got to have those expectations. And I love those 4 principles of building, elite teams and good teams. They all build on each other. Without the one before, you can't, like, if you don't have trust, you can't communicate well. If you don't communicate well and open and honestly with each other, you're not going to respect each other. And then if you don't respect each other, why do you care to even hold each other accountable? Because you don't really care about the other person's performance. So I like how they all build on each other. And I like all of the stories you've shared, but the something I've loved about you, Byrd, is how like principle based you are, and you have these principles that you live by, and that it's clear that why True Growth was so successful is you lived by them yourself, and you're able to teach them in that way. And so that I think that's important. And it kind of leads me to the last question I want to ask you as we wrap up. I know, Byrd, you're a man of faith, and you mentioned several times in this, about maybe not by name, but Jesus Christ and how he's led you. And I know as we've talked, that's been a big influence on you. And I know all these principles matter and everything, and the principles you live by and the stories and the attributes, they're all important. But ultimately, I know that you live by, if you at the expense of your faith and your family, success doesn't matter, right? And so if you would, maybe as we wrap up, share how your faith and your belief has made you a better leader and how you see that playing into good leadership. And we'll wrap up with that.
Thanks for that question. It's very important. I said earlier about my wife. She's my rock, quiet. I talk a lot. She just listens, and she goes out. She works with the immigrant community, by the way, here in Nashville, Tennessee, and just sold out to them. Her faith has been the richest blessing in my life, and I'll answer the question with this story. When I was 40 years old, I had a comfortable executive job in Huntsville, Alabama, and I wasn't politically correct. It was a family-owned business. I held everybody accountable to the same standards, and so I was asked to resign because I reprimanded the chairman of the board's son.
Yeah.
And my faith back then, I told you I really didn't get it to my late 30s, early 40s. This is when I realized that faith in myself wasn't going to get me very well, only. So I was asked to resign. I came home that day. My wife was working. Our children, they were young. They were in elementary school. And I was a failure. My identity was my job taken away. I went home. Long story short, I stuck a shotgun in my mouth because I was going to take my life because I was a failure. And back then, real men don't cry. We just rush from the inside out. I started crying, Jackson. And by the way, tears are cathartic. we hold so much inside. And I started crying, and I dropped the shotgun. I said, God, I don't know what Jeannie has. I mean, I went to church, Jackson. It was all social, I did all the right things. But I really, and boy, I'm still working on it. And I dropped the shotgun. I said, God, I don't know how Jeannie has, but I need it. That was 40 years old. I'm 76. And, I don't proselytize, but the Bible, wisdom, that's the source of wisdom. I'm in a men's group. I volunteer with a group called 413 Strong. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Young men come through the court system. Think what I get by serving these young men, most of them black. And our justice system is not just unless you have money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So my North Star, hope is like the stars. They are always there. Adversity is like the clouds. They're temporary. We'll move on. Keep your eyes on the stars. And we know who the keeper of the stars is, right?
That's right.
And I have a ring. It's a bald eagle. And the reason I wear this ring is because my favorite scripture is Isaiah 40:31. Those who hope in the Lord renew their strength, soar on wings like eagles, run and not grow weary, and walk and not be faint.
Mm-hmm.
So I still have challenging days, but when I lean on Him, and by the way, I have a spiritual board of directors, and I challenge everybody to have one. Because remember, spiritual energy, purpose, values, beliefs. Well, you know who's on my board? Here they are. Jesus is my chairman. Martin Luther King Jr. Our lives begin the end the day we become silent about things that matter.
That's right.
Study his life. And Gandhi. What did Gandhi say? Be the change you wish to see in the world. Mm-hmm. And by the way, Jackson, all three of them gave their lives for a purpose greater than self.
Yep.
And here's what I encourage people to do. Find a source of wisdom, men's group, Bible study group. And there are two resources that I lean on every day. They're free. One of them is a daily devotional that I encourage all men to sign up. It's free. It's called Better Man. And they're short, beautiful, scripture-based devotionals with questions at the end. How do I apply that to my life? Better Man. And the other one is Old Lazy Dog.
Old Lazy Dog.
It's a friend of mine that's had this devotional for years. And if you love animals, and it's based on his lab. I think he started it in 1997, Marty Stubblefield. But Old Lazy Dog, it's life and faith through the eyes and heart of an old dog. Mm-hmm. And people will enjoy that. So thank you, Jackson, because if it wasn't for the good Lord, I wouldn't be here today. It wasn't for my wife's faith.
Yeah. Well, Byrd, thank you for being willing to share that. I know that's something that maybe a lot of people don't believe in, or a lot of people aren't willing to talk about. So I'm grateful for the vulnerability and being your authentic self and showing us the true principles of a great leader. And just to wrap us up, again, I want to emphasize my gratitude to you for being willing to come on and share your stories and teach us the principles. It's been a great experience for me and hopefully for our listeners as well.
Well, thank you, Jackson. You're an old soul, and I love what you're doing. I wish you much success. And, people like you, especially you, give me hope for the future, because we need people you that are really committed to be authentic leaders and teaching it. And I know you're going to have a very, very successful future. And I'm going to give you a little advertisement here. People that are listening to this, if you want to engage a company to help you become more authentic in your leadership, hire Jackson's team, because he has a partner in his business.
Thank you, Byrd. I appreciate it and appreciate that advertisement for us. And again, I hope our listeners really learn from you. I have. And so really just thank you.
God bless. Have a good day, Jackson.
You too. All right.
Thank you for spending time with us on the Front Lines of Leadership podcast. Leadership isn't about the position you hold. It's about the responsibility you accept and the people you serve. Take a moment to reflect on one principle from today's conversation that you can apply immediately, at work, at home, or in your community. Small, intentional actions compound into real leadership. Subscribe, share, and join us again as we continue to learn from leaders who show us what it means to lead from the front lines.